So here's a dry run of my setup as I would be on the water. A lot of times when I'm home and I'm not on the water, I'll get on the boat and I'll just lay everything out just to make sure I got things tweaked how I want it. So when I get out on the water, it's all about fishing and not about messing with the gear. Again, you know, if you're going to be trolling, one of the most important things you can get is a iPilot, because the iPilot is the cream of the crop. It allows you to just set it and forget it. On that trolling motor, y'all can see I have my HDSI transducer, and I have my HydroWaves underwater speaker mounted to there. I have a US2. I don't use it, so I just cover up the US2 with the speaker for the most part. So on the front of the boat, as I'm going to fish, this is for striper fishing. My front set of rods are going to be for my outside planer boards. In the wintertime, you're usually going to be downlining and flatlining, and your flatlining can be right out the back and or with planer boards out to the side. So I use this type of rod holder here, which gives me an upward angle. If you can see that pole's going up and out, that upward angle helps get that planer board out to the side a little more. I've noticed when it's laying closer flat to the water, it doesn't get as much pull as when it's up and out. So I keep that one kind of pointed forward, just a little bit forward and up and out, and that line is going to just run down and out. It's going to be clear. I'll have nothing that's going to interfere with my next rod that's coming after that. So I find that to be a good position, and then I come right here, and this rod is typically going to be my down line. It almost looks like it's going under that first pole, in which it really is not, but what that gives me is that line's going to go straight down out towards the front of the boat, and when it's out in the front of the boat, that gives me the whole side and rear of the boat to reel and fish without the chances of fouling my line, because that line's going to be about 20 foot down. By the time I get the fish to the boat, that fish is going to be up on the surface, so I have no real chances of fouling that line. I find that to be a good position, pointing it forward more so than pointing it out 90 degrees to the side of the boat. When you point it out 90 degrees to the side, you've effectively cut off half of your boat for fighting the fish. So keeping it up and towards the front gives me the whole side of my boat to fight the fish. And then as I continue to go down here, always keep at least one rod ready for some surface action. And this is just my up hole. I keep it together. If I see some fish schooling on the surface, I can whip it out and I can just throw at them real quick. That bobber right there, you can adjust the weight of that bobber just by adding water to it. It'll float. It also gets out, it's clear, so when it hits the water, it doesn't really spook the fish quite as much. But one thing to do is, right now you can see it's all kind of tied up so it doesn't float around. When you get on the water in the morning, go ahead and open that up so that all you have to do is unhook that bait and throw it out and don't have to worry about unwinding your poles. Come on right to here, and this is going to be my second planer board. You can see it's angled towards the back, and again I angled this to the back so that if I'm fighting the fish on the down line or that front planer board, it gives the whole side of my boat that I can fight them and bring them in without having the chances of fouling up into this line right here. On small boats, space is very important, so you have to maximize your space using angles. I learned the angles from crappie fishing. Crappie fishing, I'll have up to 18 to 20 rods out of the same boat, and it's all about lanes and angles with that as well. So I just use that principle along with my striper fishing to help me out. As I come right here, and this is my electronic setup. You can see I have the Humminbird 1198, and I'll use this one here for my side imaging. Sometimes I'll split it with side and mapping if I want to get some real detailed information on mapping, but most of the time I just use that just as it is for side imaging. And then right behind that one is my down imaging station, and I use that to give me crystal clear images of what exactly is going on under me. Is that a pile of bait? Is it a tree? Is it a limb? What is it? That right there will always tell me what it is. Up on my dashboard right here on my windshield, that's the tripod for my camera, because I'm filming with the camera right now, but I can just set that and forget it. And it turns 360 degrees, so whichever way, whichever pole I catch a fish on, I can quickly just turn the camera to that general angle and I can record my battles. So I like having that on because I like doing documentaries. Come on to the back a little bit more, and this is my combo setup as a downrigger, but it's not summertime or springtime, so not really using the downriggers that much, but I do use that rod hold on the back of it as a holder for my flat lines or down line out the back. I mean, I do mix it up sometimes, and I will use it putting a flat line out the back on a down rigger if I want to get something deep and away from the boat. But most of the time, this time of year, that's really not necessary. So I'll just use that for, you know, extra pole holders and 2 free lines out the back, sometimes a down line and a free line. As you can see with these 2 poles, I have, you know, spinning rods. I use the spinning rods for this particular setup right here because, you know, you're going to catch whatever you're going to catch, you're probably going to catch it on the surface, and it just gives you a nice, decent fight. Just like my, that other rod I showed you up front for the surfacing, that was also a spinning rod. Spinning rods are great when you want to just have a good fun and fight the fish. You can see this is just the mirror image of the other on the other side of the boat. That's my other free line, sometimes down line, sitting on that down rigger that's on that side of the boat. And got my bait, well, you know, right there. Got other documentaries of the bait tank, so I'm not gonna really go into that. And then I keep my net laying crossways across the boat. You can see the net is pretty much big as the boat is wide, so you have to have a good place to keep that so it's not in the way and you're not tripping over it. So I find this to be a good spot to keep it, where I can still get to my bait tank, I can get to the 2 back poles, not tripping over, stepping on it, and it's not in the way. When I keep it hanging on the console in one of those tube holders, it just gets in the way so much, it just gets to be irritating. So if I back up, coming back up on the side of the boat again, you know, I got a free line out the back, sometimes down line, and then this would be my left hand side inside planer board. And again, you can see that one's angled towards the back of the boat and it's angled up. And the importance of angling up is these rods and reels aren't exactly cheap, and what you want to have is when that fish hits, you want some resistance. You don't want that pole just sliding out. When you get those rod holders that just kind of point straight out or maybe a little bit down, that can be a bad day for you because you can lose a rod if that fish hits just right. Like this one here, you can see if I hit just the right way, that pole will come right out. But being that it's pointed up and the fish doesn't pull up, I don't really worry about that. So that's why I like that particular type of rod holder right there, because angling up, I'm going to keep my rod in. Come back up to the next set again. This is my left hand down line on this side of the boat, and again it's pointed out to the front, and then this rod right here is going to be going away and back, so no real conflicts there. I wouldn't try to run that as 2 down lines. However, for the particular situation that I have it set in, it works out really good. And again, you know, that's just the front rod right there. This is my big Check It stick. It's 48 inches long. Haven't caught a fish that big yet, but I do plan on eclipsing that. So I bought the biggest one I could find when I bought it, and all my tackle goes in that one box right there. It's all about space management, and I find I can put all my tackle in that one box and everything is just quite fine. I can get to it, I can close that box, it's out of the way, it's nice and neat. I don't have a lot of bags and hooks and everything else laying around in the floor of the boat. You can see, besides my, you know, that's my juice station down there, so I keep my snacks. I keep the boat pretty much wide open, and when I'm sitting down, I'll keep those seats up, but when I'm sitting up on the front deck, sometimes I'll sit where that Check It stick is at. I'll go ahead and fold those 2 seats down, at least this one right here. I'll fold the passenger seat down so I can have clear access to the back of the boat if I need to get up there quick and grab one of those 2 rods out the back, or grab that rod. Don't really need to grab this one right here. Okay, some of the hidden accessories on the boat that also, you know, contribute to my fishing experiences. The first thing is this onboard charger. It's a 3-bank charger. You know, with all the electronics and things that I run on this boat, I have one battery that's set aside just for my accessories, another battery that's set aside just for my cranking motor, and then I have my you know, dual 24-volt setup here for my trolling motor. That's my homemade Troller's Fury, if anybody ever saw those online advertised. But yeah, I use that 3-bank charger, and it's connected to my 2 trolling motor batteries and my accessory battery. And I've also used, to make it even more efficient, I've come over here and I just put a shore power plug right on the boat. So when I come home in the afternoons from fishing, all I do, come right over here. That's my plug up my extension cord, and then I walk away. Everything that's going to happen is going to happen automatically, and it's a very good charger. Paid a decent amount of money for it, so it keeps a trickle charge as well to keep the batteries from going dead while they're just in storage, or not going dead necessarily, but just draining down a little. Next thing you see there, that's my inner link for my Humminbird units. I do have a lot of Humminbird units on here, and this allows me to be able to have my front units talk to my back units. So if I'm up at the front and I mark something that I want to go back and look at, I can hit a waypoint, boom, it's up on both of my units, front and back. Or if I'm in the back and I see something, I can hit it, boom, and it puts the waypoint on the front unit. That's a very good thing to have when you're going back and forth in the boat. It's it's a luxury. It's not a necessity, but it is a luxury that you don't have to manually take out a card and copy waypoints from one place to the other. And this particular unit itself, it stores the waypoints, so if I accidentally clear out my units, well, no problem. I just go back to the menu setting and say, hey, put them back in there for me, and they come back in. Another thing I use is this WeatherSense module here. That module is designed to mark the barometric pressure throughout the day. You can watch the trends. They say barometric pressure has a lot to do on fish activity and what they do and what they don't do. So if I'm on fish and something happens and they stop biting, I can look at that and look at the trending and see if it has something to do with the pressure. Or if they're not biting and all of a sudden they turn on, I can also look at the trending as well. Always keep your accessories. Over there I have all my flares, all of my safety stuff, anything that I need to have, to be legal in the state. I keep all that on that side over there in those bags. Those are waterproof bags, so they're just really Ziploc bags, but they keep everything in there dry so I don't get any water intrusion. And another thing you have to have is, if you have a boat, you ought to notice by now, you really need to know how to work on it just a little bit, because a boat can be your good best friend. It can also be your worst nightmare. So I keep a lot of extra wire in there, electrical tape, screws, rubber bands, anything I might think I might need. So I can do emergency maintenance work on my boat, on the water. If something goes wrong, I can rewire stuff. I also keep a nice bag of tools, both big and small. So that if I gotta get down in the motor, I can get down in there too if I have to. I don't really like to break down in the motors, but I have done it before, and it saved me a lot of trouble from being stranded on the water. And again, this is just the hidden stuff that you don't really see all the time, but it's also part of what makes a fishing experience great.